Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Karimuni said, "Oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls or in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds." Purport: the universal world, the material world, is a place for suffering, which is due to the misdeeds of the inhabitants, the conditioned souls themselves. The sufferings are not extraneously imposed upon them. Rather, the conditioned souls create their own suffering by their own acts. In the forest, fire takes place automatically. It is not that someone has to go there and set a fire. Because of friction among various trees, fire occurs automatically. When there's too much heat from the forest fire of this material world, the demigods, including Brahma himself, being harassed, approach the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and appeal to Him to alleviate the condition. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends. In other words, when the demigods become distressed by the sufferings of the conditioned souls, they approach the Lord to remedy the suffering, and the Personality of Godhead descends. When the Lord descends, all the demigods become enlivened. Therefore, Karimuni said, after many, many years of human suffering, all the demigods are now satisfied. Because Kapila Dev, the incarnation of Godhead, has appeared. So text again. Aho Pachyamananam Niraye Swar Amangalai Halena Bhuyasa Nunam Prasidantiha Devata. Karimuni said, "Oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds." Namo Vishnu Varaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivani Paskatyade Satarna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Nadate kasitit papam na papam sukritim vibhum agyane navritam jnanam tena muyati jantava. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their own knowledge. In other words, God, Krishna, He's in charge of the entire universe, and He causes everything to be done, but He's not the only factor in activity. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Adishtanam tata karata karnam cha pritag vidam vivitas cha pritag chesta daivam jaivatma panchama. There are 5 causes in the accomplishment of any activity. The first one is called adishtanam, which means the place of activity, namely the body. So each one of us will receive different kinds of bodies. Basically, human form of life, the bodies are more or less the same. If we walk down the street and we see an animal, we know it's not a human being. And if we see most human beings, we know they're not animals. So basically speaking, the bodies are similar. We have 2 eyes. Most of us don't have 3 or 4. We have 2 arms and legs, etc. It's similar composition of body. That's called the place of activities for the soul, who is also called the karta, or the doer. He's called the doer because we have our free will. We're not independent, we can't do anything we want. if I want to fly around in this room right now, it would be extremely difficult for me to do it. Now, how quickly I flap my hands, I probably wouldn't get very high. The desire may be there, but one has to have a suitable body in order to execute the desire. With human intelligence, we can, of course, create some mechanical means by which we can fly, but it's not as convenient as the body of a bird. Even a little insect has much better capacity to fly than we do. And, as we know, if you're a bird, you don't need a visa to come to Croatia. The other Croatian birds are not imposing strict regulations for who can come. And yet, Croatia is still surviving. But in the human form of life, although we have an opportunity to understand things more clearly, and therefore desire appropriately for our benefit and for others' benefit, somehow or another we have this conception or misconception that I am something other than a spiritual soul. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Denosmin yatha dehe kamaram yovanam jara tata dahantara praptir diryas tatram namuyate. Krishna explains that our bodies are changing. I think most of us have noticed we have different bodies at different times of our life. The body we had as a 5-year-old child is not the same body we have now, nor will the body 10 to 15 years from now, if we're still in a body, be exactly the same as the body we have now. Yet we who identify ourselves with these various bodies, we're still the same identifier. It is not that we've disappeared and someone else has appeared in our body and is now identifying with this particular body we're in. No, we're the ones continuously are going from one body to the next, and yet all these changes are not affecting us because we're the same person, the same identifier with this gross and subtle, the same experiencer of the gross and subtle material body. So that means we're eternal, but we're also a karta. Karta means a doer, because we have the capacity to desire. If we desire in relationship to this body and nothing but for the body, nothing higher than the body or the subtle mind, then the result is that we're responsible for our activities due to our desire. Now, desire is not sufficient to become responsible in this age, Kali Yuga, but if we strongly desire to do something with this body, then Krishna, within our heart, He sanctions it. If that's what you want to do, then I'll make the arrangements so that you can do it. But Krishna didn't ask us to do it. We wanted to do it, and Krishna said, all right, if you insist, then I'll allow you to do it. Just like a child with a mother. The child says, I want that bag of candy. And the mother says, it's not good for you. I want that bag of candy. I don't think it would be best for me to buy. No, I want it. So for the mother to keep sane, not go crazy, she buys the candy because of the insistence of the child. So similarly, if we insist that we do something in this material world, then Krishna will make the arrangements. Otherwise, what kind of relationship would we have with Krishna? That we only did what Krishna wanted us to do, although it may be in our best interest, because Krishna knows our best interest, but we also have some free will, so Krishna will allow us to do what we want here. But we have to keep in mind that I'm not the body, I'm the soul within the body. If one cannot understand that he's the soul within a body, then that's total ignorance. according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyatma buddhi kunape tritaruke, sudi kalatradi shubham ijadi, yatirta buddhe sarale nakarichish, ganesh bhavageshu sik eva gokara. That Yatma buddhi. So, buddhi means our intelligence, how we see things. Now, Bhagavad Gita is explained to see things in terms of the soul, that the soul's not changing, but the body's changing. So if we don't see that, then we're considered abudaya, lack of intelligence. We may be very expert in manipulating material energy. We may build big buildings and jet planes and computers. But ultimately, if we don't understand that we're not this body, that we're in ignorance. No matter how many PhDs they give us, we're still in ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of intelligence. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tri dharuke. So kunape means a bag, and tri dhatu, dhatus. Dhatu means that which sustains. So this body is sustained not simply by our doing exercise, not simply by eating, although these things help us control what's called the dhatus, vata, pitta, and kapha, which actually sustain the body. And these other elements, sunlight, or when we do exercise, when we increase our proper breathing, or when we eat food, this gives us one of these three energies, or all of them, kapha, pitta, and vata. Therefore, we may desire that this arrangement of the material nature that we're in now, we have some idea that it's us, but it's not us. It's a vehicle for us to be utilized ultimately to get out of this ignorant misconception that we're the material body. And whatever we're doing, if it doesn't help us get out of this material conception of life, then it's considered to be a waste of time, unless it may indirectly support our search for self-realization. For instance, doing some walking, because we can walk and chant, or whatever we're doing. If we add Krishna to it, then it becomes perfect activity. And if Krishna is not there, if there's no relationship to Krishna, there's no relationship to the Supreme, we're just doing it out of habit, or we're just doing it in order to fulfill some whimsical desires we have, then it deprives us of the opportunity to realize who we actually are. Because the soul, as we can imagine, we ourselves as soul, we have nothing to fear. Now when we identify ourselves with this body has unlimited things to fear. We don't know if we're going to walk out this room and not break our leg. We don't know if the whole of Zagreb can suddenly be swallowed up by an earthquake. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future. We may go to an astrologer and ask the astrologer, what's going to happen to me? But he doesn't know what's going to happen to himself, really, ultimately. Because he's not the astrology chart, may have some value, it may give some indication, but ultimately, there's so many other factors that go into existence. Therefore, the material world is generally a place of fear because of ignorance. The basic principle is ignorance, and we're fearful, first of all, because we acquire a false ego, this misidentification with the body. And because we identify with the body, therefore we have so many desires, we have so many fears, we have so many attachments and aversions, and therefore we're always in a state of anxiety. Whether she loves me or she loves me not, or she loves me or she loves me not. We're always, even in the relationships, even when we're married, we're always worried about how long is this relationship going to last? Is it a true relationship? Is it actually what I'm looking for? So many different anxieties and fears that we have. Am I going to get COVID? Am I getting indigestion by eating this food? At every moment we're anxiety and fearful about the body. But if we're not the body, then our suffering due to this body is unnecessary. The body is going to be, by its nature, is subjected to every moment. It has to make adjustments. Because sometimes, just like now, in the morning it's a little cool here, we may have to make an adjustment. No one walks around downtown during the winter in a bathing suit, because the body has to have some protection. Nor in the summer do we walk around with a fur coat, because the body can't. We're trying to make it balanced, not too hot, not too cold. Ultimately we're trying to balance our mind. Not too much, not too little. So the whole material creation is an attempt for balance, because we're always in balance. Everything is in balance. We're always trying to create balance. And even when we create balance, we get the perfect temperature, and then the next moment the temperature changes. We have to adjust. That's why people love the central air conditioning, central heating, because they can keep the temperature exactly what they want it. But if they walk outside, then they have to adjust to the temperature, and one has to tolerate during the adjustment, because it's uncomfortable. That's called disease, lack of ease. So at every moment we have a lack of ease. In India, people learn how to sit on the floor, but in other countries they don't know how to sit on the floor. Sitting on the floor is a big austerity for most people in the Western world. And then to get off the floor is also an austerity. In the Western world, to go to sleep requires so much medication, so many seminars to attend to learn how to sleep. And after one perfects the ability to sleep, then one has to perfect the ability to wake up. So people take one pill to go to sleep, another pill to wake up, and a third pill to counteract the effects of the other two pills. And yet if you ask most people, are you suffering? They say, no, I'm enjoying. I'm having a great time here. Well, sir, you look like you're pretty cold. Well, that's part of my enjoyment. I love all the varieties that go on in the material world. So here it mentions about suffering, that the living entity is suffering. There's sufferings due to our own bodies. Just like my finger, my thumb. My thumb, how much pleasure do we get every day from our thumb? Does anyone run down the street and say, my thumb is so ecstatic, I just can't believe it. I'm getting so much happiness from my thumb. My thumb is in ecstasy. But if we take a hammer and hit my thumb, then I won't be very happy. Very little happiness from the thumb, but a lot of misery, potential misery. If I have a toothache, I'm in misery. But right now, how many of us think I'm happy because I have teeth? I feel so good because I have teeth. But when we have a toothache, then we feel very distressed. We get little happiness from our teeth by nature, but just by existing with teeth. Of course, we need them to chew and eat. But just now, how many people are feeling so wonderful because their teeth feel great? I just can't believe the happiness I'm getting from my teeth right now. But if we get a toothache, we won't be able to tolerate the amount of misery we can potentially get. And yet people think they're happy, but what part of them is actually happy? Can anyone feel some part of their body right now that feels happy? If it's not bothering us, then we're happy. It's like having a spoiled child running around, screaming all day in your house. And finally when he goes to sleep, you feel great. Not because you feel great, because the screaming child is finally gone to sleep and you can have some peace for a few minutes. But that's not real positive happiness. That's just a lack of unhappiness. Therefore, the demigods, they come and tell us, well, Krishna comes and his representatives, and the demigods are also devotees of Krishna, because everyone should be happy. And those who are actually really happy, Krishna and his devotees, they're happy to see others happy. Unlike in the material world where misery loves company. Some people's greatest pleasure is to see others suffering. Because they're in ignorance. They don't know what real happiness is. People buy newspapers because they want to find out who's suffering more than they are. That makes them feel good. I may be suffering, I may not get what I want, but I'm getting a lot more than these people are. I'm suffering a lot less than they are, so that means I must be happy in comparison to them. Therefore, Krishna comes because he loves all his parts and parcels, and he tries to teach them how to accept him and his devotees so that they can experience what him and his devotees are experiencing, that is unalloyed happiness, because there's no misery. They have no material bodies, they have no material bodily identification, but they have a blissful body made out of eternity and knowledge. And all of us have that body too, but we don't value our own selves. We're valuing something some machine that we've entered into called this material body, and we value it so much. But it causes us so much problems and suffering. It's not that we should give it up, or abandon it, or deny it, but we should learn how to utilize it in such a way as to avoid suffering unnecessarily. But the only way we can do that is getting a higher taste, something which goes beyond the demands of our senses. Our problem is not that we're eating, the problem is that we sometimes eat too much. That's the problem. And why do we eat too much? Because our body's demanding that we eat more than we can digest. And if we don't have a higher service other than the demands of this body, then we have to fulfill those desires. But many of them lead to problems. Eating too much or eating too little, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, etc. These are problems because they cause this body to become imbalanced. And when the body is imbalanced, if that's what we're conscious of, we also have to suffer because of that. So the point is, if we understand the science of God, the science of Krishna, then we can develop other desires so that we can eat, but we'll eat what we need, not eat just because our body's demanding it. We can take shelter of Krishna's intelligence, take shelter of Krishna, and therefore eat what's necessary, sleep what's necessary. Have proper loving relationships, even in this world with others, because we'll learn the science of how to do it. Because love cannot be simply between one body or another. There's nothing to love. We don't love our own bodies. We do love our bodies in the sense we're attached to it, but loving our body doesn't give us ecstasy most of the time. It doesn't give us enlightenment. I can look at my hand and say, oh, you're so beautiful, and praise it, but what is it? It's my imagination that it's so beautiful. But even if I praise my hand or praise someone else's hand, but ultimately, what are we praising? It's not transcendental beauty. It's simply temporary arrangements of the material elements in which we imagine it to be something that it's not so wonderful and beautiful. It's not causing the person who has the hand so much happiness, and so how is it going to cause us any happiness? If the person who has the hand isn't experiencing happiness through the hand, then how are we going to experience happiness through the hand? So the purport is that we should try to understand the science of Krishna, because then there's an opportunity to desire things that will give us a higher experience in existence, something spiritual, which at least promises us some kind of other experience other than just mundane experience. Now, we may doubt that, but if we simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we can see that there is something beyond just normal, everyday, material experience. Otherwise, how can someone chant the same words for hours and not get bored? Is there any song in the material world you can sing for hours and not get bored singing it after some time? Any word, you take the word water. Now we chant water, 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 water. How long can you do that? How many rounds of water can you chant? Because it's a material sound vibration. But sound vibrations in connection with Krishna, they're spiritual. So Krishna has appeared in His holy name, and it has the same potencies of Krishna. We may not realize it. We may not see Krishna when we chant Hare Krishna, although Krishna may be there. But we can experience, at one degree or another, His presence. The presence of this sound vibration is different from other sound vibrations. Therefore, not only we can understand we're not this body, but we can understand there's another existence beyond the bodily existence. There's a spiritual existence. And we're not the only ones who are spiritual. The Krishna is also spiritual. God is also spiritual. And we can associate with Him just by chanting Hare Krishna. And gradually, if we learn the science of chanting properly, we can get a higher taste, and therefore not be overwhelmed by our search after material happiness and taste. Doesn't mean we stop eating, but we eat things offered to Krishna. We don't stop sleeping, but we try to work during the day, so if we're going to dream, we'll dream something about Krishna. Sex is there, but it should be for some purpose, not just whimsically. Should be to create children so that the children can become raised in a way that they become liberated from their material conception of life. They realize their eternal nature and eventually become devotees of God, Krishna, so they can go back to the spiritual world. And of course, defending is there, but the main thing we have to defend against is our illusion. We may defend everything else. We may learn so many martial arts, we may have so much money in the bank, but if we can't defend ourselves against illusion, then we'll always be unhappy no matter what we have in this world. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Kuala, any questions? Yes.
If I understood correctly, that we as a soul, we can develop a certain amount of qualities, pure qualities of Krishna. And these qualities, they are developed they are automatically developed as we are getting a higher taste for serving the Lord. It's not that we individually try to develop humility or focusing on detachment or something. Is it understood that this automatically happens when we get higher?
Nothing automatic. I mean, things automatically happen in the sense that if you program them, the door is open when you have automatic doors, when they sense that something's near them. They've been programmed like that. No, for spiritual life, it's personal. It's voluntary. It depends on the determination, or the intelligence, the determination of the soul to do something. And especially in the material world, when we try to do something, develop some quality, the Maya will be there to tell us the opposite. So we have to become more determined to serve what will bring us a higher taste than what Maya is offering us on the lower level. That takes some determination, some enthusiasm. So that's not automatic. Nothing. Did you ever become, sometimes we may feel enthusiastic automatically, but generally speaking, any sustained enthusiasm is because we're doing something that causes us to become enthusiastic, because we're desiring to do something that causes us to become enthusiastic. But at any moment we can do something that will cause us to become depressed, become overly enthusiastic, and then we become proud, and then we do something that causes us misery or depression. So it's not automatic, it's just desire of the soul and its determination to do something that will fulfill that desire. Anything else?
One question, so, and these lower things like love, anger, greed, these also we're trying to subdue them, but we cannot fully let them go until we actually start doing proper spiritual practice and start to act on the spiritual platform. So we can regulate these lower tendencies so that we can start to, but these lower tendencies will go away only if we actually establish ourselves on the spiritual level. Is it right?
Well, they usually go away because we're trying to establish ourselves on the spiritual level. Krishna says, Itaidam so samrido ganira bhasma satkruterjana kanagni sarvakarmani bhasma satkruterjana. As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so as the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all the reactions of our past activities. So when we focus our mind upon Krishna, the presence of Krishna, then he burns away these things. His spiritual energy, when the spiritual energy is there, the Maya goes away. So we're in ecstasy in Krishna consciousness. As much as we become aware of Krishna, then to that extent that Maya, the illusory energy in the form of lust, anger, greed, delusion, madness, envy, it disappears. And as much as we forget Krishna and do things which are against Krishna's principles, then the illusory energy covers us and impels us to do things that we shouldn't be doing. Anything else? Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.